All right, so I'm going to start off kind of pre-COVID times. So I don't remember exactly what year it was, but a couple of years before the coronavirus pandemic came about, we did have a different airport executive director, and she was a great woman who really did a lot for the airport and was great to see. But around those kind of times, kind of 2000 through 2015, I would say, just the airport kind of stayed about the same. Of course, the passenger numbers grew a little bit over the years, but there just wasn't a whole lot happening. Kind of until that 2015 timeframe. Around this time, Allegiant started flying maybe a year or two ahead or before that. And I think once Allegiant came is really when the leisure travel and the airline competition started to pick up. We started seeing routes like Sanford being added, which were doing really well. The only really downside kind of in that time frame was Fort Lauderdale on JetBlue being lost. But aside from that, it was doing really well. And then kind of the 2020 times, as the rest of the world experienced, kind of went into a huge downfall. So despite the downfall, we came back relatively quickly compared to most airports in the United States, I would say.
Especially in the region as well.
Yes, absolutely. So obviously, yeah, very unfortunate circumstance, but all those kind of facts considered, I think the airport did a very good job kind of rebounding from that. And even when the pandemic was still going on, adding Southwest Airlines during the pandemic was huge. Southwest is something that the airport really was missing out on for the longest time, ever since they were flying to airports like Buffalo, Albany, Rochester, and they just left Syracuse out of the market for some reason, which is unfortunate. So Southwest has been here for about a year. They've been a little over a year. I think it was last week or the week before was their 1 year anniversary. And to this day, they still have the 3 daily Baltimore and the once weekly Tampa and Orlando. Tampa's seasonal, but overall, it's been okay. I definitely think more routes like Chicago Midway would do pretty well. Maybe a daily Orlando service at some point in the next couple of years, would do really well. And then the addition of Breeze as well. So Breeze kind of came when the pandemic was about at its end, I would say. There is still some minor restrictions, but nothing really too crazy. And Breeze has been doing very well. To start, they had a little bit of trouble with Charleston, I think, but I think after they started advertising a lot more, the loads got much better. And then Las Vegas as well has been a staple here for Syracuse, as there's so much demand for Las Vegas. And that's a route that we've missed out on for a really long time. And it's been great to see that. Breeze has been doing very well with Las Vegas. So then they added Tampa, of course, just actually last week. And that's done very well. I think Saturday was the first day. And the few frequencies that they've had on Breeze for Tampa since then have been very good. There's not a whole lot of data, of course, just because of the few flights, but all those facts considered with the new air service development into the Syracuse market, despite the pandemic, has been very nice to see. So you have the new air service as well as the terminal expansions and the Bravo Concourse, which has been something that I've been very interested in. So yeah, there may be a little section on the website for that. I know there's.
I think it would be the master plan, or do you think they would have announced in the news? Where would it be? I'm sorry.
I would say it would be in the news section if you want to take a look. But yeah, basically, long story short, you might find it on there if you want to take a quick look.
Let's see. Parking land side development plans. I think this is it right here. Here we go. Here we go.
So I guess I'll kind of look into this. All right. So as you can probably see on your screens, if you want to read along, that's fine. So the Syracuse Regional Airport Authority announced today the receipt of a $20 million award for terminal updates and expansion of the Hancock Airport. Funding is tied to 2 projects. So those projects, I'll start with the North Concourse, or Terminal B, first. So this is something I didn't really know, is that Concourse B was reaching capacity quite a while ago, I guess, according to Jason Terreri. So which is the airport executive director. He's a great guy. So that's been an issue at the airport, is the capacity of the Bravo Concourse hasn't been all that good because the concourse is a little bit too small for the amount of passengers that travel through it in peak times. So basically what's happening is there were 2 jet bridges way back in the day that they are replacing, or they they existed back in the day. Then they took them off because the airport didn't really have enough flights to fill them. So they made them into hard stands where you'd board with air stairs. And now that the Bravo Concourse has been filling up with a few more flights over the last few years, they've had the desire to add those back in. So that's kind of what they're planning on. So you have the Bravo Concourse expansions. Along with the jet bridges, they're going to be adding a little lounge kind of on the northeastern side of the concourse. I believe the overall footprint of the Bravo Concourse will have about, I think it might have it on there, 4,700 square feet addition to the Bravo Concourse to accommodate that extra demand. So you have the Bravo Concourse expansion, which is going to be great, the new jet bridges. And then you have the customs facility and the federal inspection station renovation and expansion. So what that's going to allow is, I believe, about 200 passengers per hour, which that's pretty significant. So this is going to allow international flights should we need them. I know the airport has been pushing for, believe it or not, Dublin, Ireland. I don't remember the exact location of this website. It was on the Regional Airport Authority website, though, mentioning how they wanted to expand their air service to places like Dallas, Denver, and Dublin was on there. So this could be something we see in the next probably 15 years. I don't know if it'll happen anytime soon. As much as I hope it does, I don't see it happening too soon. But if it does, this project will allow us to be able to accommodate that. So they're replacing the jet bridge in this area. So this is currently this is gate 15 at the airport. So this whole space used to belong to JetBlue way back in the day. And then ever since, ever since JetBlue I think gate 15 was JetBlue's primary gate at Syracuse. And then once they switched over to gate 3, I think gate 15's just been left abandoned. And one of the authority documents says that the gate has been deemed unsafe, I believe.
This
and
is
I
gate
think
15, by the way, guys, right here.
Yes, that's exactly right. So that one rusty, old-looking gate when you first drive in the terminal, it sticks out like a sore thumb. So I believe the airport authority deemed it unsafe and assessed the scrap metal value at about $5,000, which is absolutely crazy. If that tells you anything, how long the gate's been sitting. I think the document had something about there being like holes in it and like the carpet's rotting out and stuff like that. So the fact that they're going to be able to replace this and hopefully get it in use at some point is going to be really helpful for us. So you have gate 15 being replaced, which will allow international travel, which will be really nice to see. In addition to all of the commercial air service, the cargo operations out of Syracuse have been very, very good as well. So they're already pretty fair. So we have a lot of 757s from UPS and FedEx is the main thing we get here for cargo. Generally, it's a few weekly flights to various destinations, but generally we get a few 757s per day, and some days we get like 6 757s on the ground at once, which is crazy. So you have really good cargo operations currently, and then Amazon Prime Air rather has been looking to enter the Syracuse market, which they were supposed to a while ago. I don't know what happened. Maybe something with the pandemic slowed things down. I don't really know, to be honest, but I do believe they're still planning to open up a Syracuse kind of environment here to work with our region. So I don't know what that would include. I know also on the Syracuse Regional Airport Authority website is a document about the cargo apron expansion, and I have a feeling that this is going to be used for Prime Air. So very excited to see what's to come for the cargo. Again, the cargo has currently been pretty good for as far as frequencies and loads and that kind of thing and aircraft types. It's a pretty big improvement from where we were about 5 years ago. We had a lot more ATRs and such flying into Syracuse, and since then we haven't seen a single ATR. So that's been good to see. And aside from that, the only other thing I can think of is the UAS and the drone infrastructure at Syracuse. So I believe Syracuse was, I think the airport was included in about 100-mile long corridor that military drones would be used for. So I don't know exactly what this means yet. I would like to read up on more details, but we've had a lot of aircraft like the MQ-9 Reapers, which are controlled from the ground, that have been flying around. There's probably, I think there's over 10 of them based here at Syracuse, which it's not something I talk about very often because I haven't been as interested in the military operations, but there is a Air National Guard here at Syracuse. 174th Attack Wing, I think, is one of the assets here. So a lot of drone infrastructure, some pretty fair military stuff, although probably not as common as a lot of other airports. So aside from that, though, in terms of airport infrastructure, we have the parking garage and landside redevelopment. So there may be a section on this website as well. Yeah, you got it right there. So let's take a look at this. All right, so the parking garage currently was built back in the 1980s. I think it's about 37 or 38 years old. So it works, it's functional. It's just getting a little bit too small for peak travel time. So I'm sure there's going to be issues today, as it's Thanksgiving Eve, filling that up. I'm pretty sure they've already probably sold out of the parking garage spaces. And another issue with the parking garage is that's where the rental car facility is located. So that's really taking up a lot of the current available spaces. And then people have to park in overflow lots and that kind of thing. So the current projects with the land side is parking surface lot expansion. So you have the surface lot kind of near the cargo center. If you want to scroll down here a little bit, there should be a map with the 3 parking lots that they're currently working on. So right there, yep. So the 3 white boxes you guys can see there, you have a cell phone lot, you have lot number 1 and lot number 2, which are going to be the primary parking lots that they're expanding on. So those will add about 900 spaces, I think, for the surface lots. And then the parking garage, they're going to try to expand. They're splitting the parking garage in 2 halves. I think it's going to be a complete reconstruction of the parking garage.
Yeah, it looks like what they're going to do is, since they're making the 3 additional, sorry to interrupt, but it looks like they're going to make the 3 additional lots. They're going to expand the parking garage in 2 squares instead of 1 huge rectangle as it is, and redo these surface lots to make them more efficient. If you can see in this graph right here, it looks like there looks to be a ton of spaces, but it looks like in terms of additional spots, they can get more bang for their buck, or I guess space for your buck in this case, if it's more height rather than wide, because while there's plenty of area here on the north side to work with, or northeast side, passengers are not going to want to take a shuttle all the way over there. And this is what the article kind of highlighted on, if I recall correctly, is they're looking to get people right there, right then. So they'll use their parking outside of, like, instead of using external parking sources, like the Fine Parking Garage at Tulsa International, for instance, they're trying to get as many people as possible to park in here, because that's huge revenue for the airport and huge funding to be able to utilize. So what they're going to do, it looks like, is instead of 1 huge rectangle as we currently have, we're going to have 2 pretty big squares. So it looks like it's probably going to be close to, I don't know if it's going to double the capacity, but yeah, 44%. So that'll be really close. Then you'll have all of this additional surface area to still work within the economy lot. So a really good way to utilize space. And I think this is a really good way to utilize that. So sorry for interrupting what you were saying, though, but feel free to resume.
No, you're all right. That's perfectly fine. So yeah, as you were saying, you have the 2 parking garages that I think they're going to focus more on height is the main thing, and add maybe 1 more level. And then somehow that'll just add a lot more spaces, I guess, which is going to be very interesting. So not only does that increase spaces, but it improves the general infrastructure and the longevity of these assets. And then you have the rental car facility, which it said somewhere, I saw some document, it may have been on the Syracuse Airport website, it may have been somewhere else, but I believe the rental car facility and ground transportation center, where you see in the orange, which is currently the overflow lot, I believe is going to have a 1-story, like it's going to have a deck of some sort, kind of like a parking garage, but it's going to be basically 2 lots. And I don't know.
Here's this line right here. I'm not sure if this is exactly what you were looking for, but that might be something.
It relates to that. I don't remember where exactly this was, but I don't think it's going to be as big as the whole parking lot for the overflow, which currently you guys can see there. But that'll be ground transportation center instead of having that in the parking garage. So that'll be very interesting to see kind of how that works out. I'm very excited to see what the canopy is going to look like, because the airport's been kind of concerned about natural lighting in the like the check-in and the baggage claim area. So they have, in 2018, they completed a landside terminal renovation, which is beautiful now. There's a lot of, stuff like curtain walls, a lot of nice stonework, which looks really nice. So, but the big complaint was that the parking garage is so close to the terminal and that it just blocks the sunlight that's coming in through the windows. So as you can see, the parking garage, in addition to being supposedly the walk between the parking garage and the terminal is going to be shorter after the project, yet they're moving the parking garage further away. So I don't know if they're going to have some kind of a moving walkway in there, but it's going to be very interesting to see.
Looks like there's these 2, these are probably going to be elevated sky walkways, so they'll probably be able to walk across that. So that's my assumption there.
Which they currently have those elevated walkways, but they're going to have to add some length, I think, if this is what they're going to do, because they want to increase the curbside capacity here. So that's going to be interesting to see how they pull that off. It's going to look really nice in the end, I think. So I'm very excited for that. One more thing, I think this is the last thing I can think of aside from general. There's also jet bridge replacements. I think they're going to replace 7 jet bridges in addition to Gate 15. A lot of the current jet bridges, there's 4 glass jet bridges. There's 2 jet bridges that are steel sided, but they were installed kind of 2010 time range, and that's Gate 11 and Gate 3, which are Allegiant and JetBlue, and they're very nice. There's no reason for them to be replaced. I think they're kind of the same style that like what Tulsa has actually.
Yeah.
The smooth steel sided, which they look really nice, to be honest. I really do like them. And then the rest are just old, installed in 1987, which they've kind of they're at the end of their life.
Time for them to go. Yeah,
I agree. So that's kind of the issue they're facing, is replacing these jet bridges. And I wish they were glass, but I think they were going to be, and then I think they changed it somehow. I can't remember how I came to that assumption, but we'll have to see. They have delayed the project for some reason. I know a lot of them were supposed to be replaced by now, so I don't know kind of what the deal is. Maybe there's some supply issue, but we'll have to see how that turns out in the future. Then on top of that, I don't know, Red River, if you want to go to the SRAA website, there was a parcel of land. Let's see. So right up top there in the blue text, or yeah, you can do it this way too.
Sorry. There we go.
That's all right. So then go down to bids and RFP, which is probably 2/3 of the way down about. And you'll scroll down a little bit where you can do control find, and there'll be like a land interest type project. So maybe just type in land.
Utility or landside terminal. Or is it any of these?
Maybe scroll down a little bit more. I think it may have had something to do with the word parcel, like
passenger.
PARC maybe.
Oh, I spelled wrong.
That's okay.
Parking.
Okay. If you can't find it, I'll try to take a look on my end.
Where would it be?
It's towards the bottom. It's one of the older ones. But basically what it was is like the airport is interested in a piece of land that lies north
Here's the boarding jet bridge replacement, but I don't think that's what you're looking for, right?
Yeah, go down a little bit more. Oh, there it is. No, it's not. That's not it. Okay. Down a little more, maybe. A little more.
Project landside terminal build. What were we looking for exactly again? I'm sorry.
So there's a bunch of land that's kind of north of 2-8 that they wanted to maybe add a parallel runway on at some point. So
landside utility improvements, landside terminal.
Look at previous RFPs, like what you're in right now. So it could be request for, yes, this is property. Okay, look at the first one to do with property there. And that should have the graphs. So there it is.
This is it. Yeah, okay.
So yeah, you can see 2-8 down there. Actually, this is looking at it from,
sorry. There we go.
You're good. Yes. So you can see you have 1-0 there, and then you have, let's see.
3-3.
That's 1-0. Yep.
Yeah.
1-5-3-3 there, and then kind of in between those two, you have a parallel runway, which would be
right here.
1-0 left.
Yes.
If they put this in.
Terminal building's right here. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like if they're going to do this at the end of the end of 2-8 rather, it looks like, oh yeah, here's the other end. So did you want to go back to the 1-0 end real quick?
Yes.
Okay, so if you look, you see this taxiway, and it looks like if they were to put this parallel runway in, they would have a taxiway going over the road potentially, which would be really interesting. I would love to see that. That would be really awesome, I think, to have something like that. Currently, I don't think there's a reason for a parallel runway. Looking at it, again, as subjectively as possible. I just don't think there's enough flights currently at the airport to include something like this. Maybe in the next 15 years, again, I was talking a while ago about how the cargo operations they're trying to improve those by quite a bit. So I'd love to see that in the future. or as soon as possible, really, with Prime Air. I don't know when they're going to come in, but I think
Complimentary thought would be additional expansion for general aviation traffic long term. You could definitely build some
yeah,
hangars on the north side of the field.
definitely. So I think, yeah, you could relocate or even just add on more general aviation. So I think passenger traffic, I do think that's going to increase a lot over the next 10 to 15 years, which I don't think alone would lead for a parallel runway. I mean, you look at Fort Myers, they have tons of flights on the daily, and they have one single runway.
San Diego.
San Diego, if they can make it work with the amount of flights they have, Syracuse can definitely do with their 2 runways. Obviously, you can't have 1533 and 1028 in use at the same time, but I think long term, yes, we could see this maybe in the next 15 years if cargo increases as much as they're saying it's going to. If you have FedEx and UPS adding more frequencies and flights, and again, a mix of that, and then maybe the north runway here could be used for general aviation and cargo, and then the let's see, it would be 28 left, 10 right, or the current 1028 could be used for air, commercial service. So who knows when this is going to happen or if it'll happen. I'd be very interested to see what's going to happen either way. Aside from this, I think I've covered just about everything I can to do with Syracuse Airport. So it's been really good so far in the last few years, seeing how they've developed, and I'm very excited to see all these projects come to life and make the airport what it's going to be in the future. So that's kind of my assessment on the Syracuse Airport. So if you have anything you'd like to add, feel free. If not, that's perfectly fine.
Well done. That was very thorough. I was not expecting it to be that thorough, but goodness, that was fantastic. Really nice job. If you don't know much about the Syracuse Airport after that, I don't know what more I can tell you. The airport's really, really exciting. The additional projects that are going on with terminal and the parking garage facility, I think, are fantastic additions. And I think this will be really helpful for passengers' general experience. I think the additional routes for the airport would also be fantastic. So hopefully we get to see those within the next few years. We'll take a look, more particular look at some of those here in a minute. But I think there are so many West Coast services, particularly, that could be done, along with maybe long-term some international flights to Mexico, possibly. That would be really cool. So the Syracuse market's very unique for a variety of reasons. You also have some really pretty comparable sized airports, some that are a little bit bigger, like Rochester and Buffalo, surrounding the airport. That definitely, it's one of those push-pull type deals. It's a really big competition factor. So it's pretty incredible, to say the least, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens from here. So really excited to see what progresses from here. And yeah,